everyone, it's Jack from Cultaholic, back again for the second day in a row of wrestling goodness. The magic number today is, of course, 15. 15 being the number of announced matches ahead of AEW's latest pay-per-view. The pay-per-view we're going to talk about with lots of huge matches to discuss. We're going to cover what happened in the world title match between CM Punk and Jon Moxley. We're going to talk about the Casino Ladder match, the Trios title match, the Women's title match. There are so many matches to talk about. So let's just crack straight on. This is what happened at AEW All Out 2022. Let's go. Just the 4 matches on the pre-show to talk about. The first being the AAA Mixed Tag Team Titles match with the champions Sammy Guevara and Ty Conti taking on Ruby Soho and Ortiz. Sammy and Ty cut a heel promo before this match, but they're interrupted by a beeping sound. What could that be? It's Ruby and Ortiz on a little buggy, and they chase them into the arena on it. And yes, Sammy Guevara again takes another excellent bump on the hood of a vehicle. He's crazy, him. Ruby also hits Ty with a trash can, and the bin has stuff in it, and I always think it's better when the bin has stuff in it. I don't know why. It's worth mentioning as well that the baby faces have face paint, which I think is a tribute to Bull Nakano and Aja Kong. Very cool to see. Anna Jay tries to interfere midway through the match, but Ruby takes care of her, and later on, Ty hits her with a superplex from the top to the outside. Lots of spots, lots of big stuff going on in this, the first match of, not even the first match of the show, the first match of the pre-show. A little bit later on, Anna Jay grabs Ruby's leg from the outside, allowing Ty to finish her off with the Ty KO. Unfortunately, it looks like Ruby's nose is legitimately broken on that. Hopefully, she's okay. But yes, the heels retain the belts. They are still the AAA Mixed Tag Team Champions. The next match is for the FTW title, with Hook defending against Cool Hand Angelo Parker, accompanied by Daddy Magic, Matt Menard. As Hook makes his entrance, he hugs Action Bronson in the front row, who of course is the rapper who does his theme music. I've seen him live once, guys. I'm pretty cool. Hook starts to dominate the match pretty early on, but Daddy Magic Matt Menard distracts the referee, allowing Angelo to target Hook's eye. Ouch. Menard tries to get involved again, but this time Hook's ready for him and stomps on his fingers and then starts taking Angelo to Suplex Village. He then slips out the back of an Angelo suplex attempt and locks in Red Rum for the quick tap. After the bell, however, Matt Menard tries to beat Hook down and the pair of them are just swarming all over him. But then Action Bronson gets in the ring and throws them off Hook, and they bail. And Action Bronson, he's ready for a fight, but the heels don't want none. No, they don't want none. The third match of the pre-show is for the All-Atlantic title, with Pac defending against Kip Sabian. He's back on the other side of the barricade. Kip has new music, I think, and a box-based entrance with box backup men in suits. Hooray! Sabian's kind of in control early on, and Pac's definitely frustrated, and then as the match progresses further, it's definitely apparent that Kip is outsmarting Pac at every turn, getting him frustrated in and outside of the ring, predicting his moves ahead of time, getting out the way, and Pac at certain points is also risking DQ by kind of ignoring the ref's 5 count and so on. At one stage, Kip distracts Pac by wiggling his fingers above his head as if he's kind of asking for a test of strength, but just wiggles his fingers, and then Pac looks at his hand and then Kip headbutts him. From there, Kip dominates and lands several near falls, but can't quite put Pac away. So he then looks through the ropes at his box on the timekeeper's table and asks the box, "Tell me what to do." Kip then goes for his finisher, but Pac reverses it and beats him down, just batters him. Loads of stomps in the middle of the ring, and then slowly drags Kip over to the corner. It takes a while for him to set up for the Black Arrow, so long that I think Kip might be playing possum and might roll out the way, but he doesn't. Pac just hits the Black Arrow and wins the match. This one definitely had a weird vibe. I can't quite work out what Kip's character is yet, but I guess that'll be developed more on TV, I suppose. It's also worth mentioning that the crowd seemed to be in Kip's favour and were booing Pac at certain stages. The champion then has an interview with Tony on the stage afterwards, but is interrupted by Orange Cassidy, to a huge ovation, of course, but Pac tells him, "No, you're not getting a title shot. Get to the back of the line." And then Pac walks down the heel tunnel, so it definitely seems like he's maybe turned. Realized I just said he's definitely maybe turned there. I'm not certain, but I think he's turned heel. Yeah, a weird one for certain, and Kip, obviously in the ring, has blamed the box for defeat and throws a tantrum, screaming out the cardboard box. More on this to follow, I'm sure. And the final match of the pre-show, oh, it's a belter. Eddie Kingston versus New Japan's Tomohiro Ishii. There's just lots and lots and lots of chops to start this one. Neither man gives in, so the crowd cheer for them, which is fair enough, but it goes on and on and on, and the crowd are loving it even more, so fair enough. Both men win a big chop exchange, and then Eddie fires up with more chops, and then Ishii just decides to stop selling those, and Kingston looks confused. Ishii takes control of the match, but Eddie no-sells a kick to the spine and just gets up and then starts slapping Ishii in the face. So Ishii starts slapping him in the face as well. And again, the crowd are really loving this because they're actually beating each other up, guys. They trade suplexes, then they trade lariats. Ishii hits Eddie with a lariat so hard at one point that the commentary table just laugh because it's so brutal. Eddie hits a half-and-half suplex, but Ishii no-sells it, so he hits him with a huge lariat instead. But then Ishii kicks out. Ishii then gets a near fall of his own off a sliding lariat, but then Eddie hits the spinning back fist, which should be the end of the match, but Ishii kicks out of that. So Eddie hits another one, a huge one this time. Ishii no-sells it, goes for the brainbuster, but Eddie counters that into some sort of twisting kind of suplex. Apologies, I'm not quite sure what that was immediately after the event. I'll have to go back and check, but it was probably a Kawada move, right? Something All Japan-esque. I don't know, but let me know in the comments below if you do, and thanks for that. Eddie wins with that move, and yeah, it was a belter of a match on the pre-show there to end things. It won't be for everyone, but I liked it, and I think judging by the crowd reaction, most of the people in attendance did as well. The opening match of the main portion of the show is the Casino Ladder Match. Now, this one has slightly different rules to a normal ladder match. They're running it like a Royal Rumble, so it's staggered entrances. But the two to start off are Wheeler Yuta and Rey Fenix. They go for the high spots immediately, with Fenix being shoved off the top into a ladder leaning against the crowd barrier. Roosh is next and takes a lot of time getting his entrance gear off, while in the ring, Yuta's climbing the ladder. Hurry up, Roosh, you silly boy. Roosh starts whipping Fenix with cables at ringside, while his ally Andrade is next up. They fist bump each other, and either man could literally climb the ladder right now and win, but they just set up a ladder bridge instead. Okay. Andrade hits a nice sunset bomb on Wheeler Yuta onto the bridge. Was it Andrade, by the way, who did that to Finn Balor in Money in the Bank one time? I think it might have been. It's Claudio next, and he checks on Yuta before tipping the ladder with Andrade on it. And it kind of creates, with the bridge in it, like a weird X shape, which you'll see on screen now, I'm assuming, before he just kind of muscles it up and tips him out over the top rope. Dante Martin's next, and as he's in the ring, kind of running wild at the start, a ladder topples over from behind onto him, which you don't want, but luckily he's okay. Penta's next and runs wild on everybody and hits a sick Canadian Destroyer on Andrade on a ladder bridge, seconds before Fenix hits a huge splash to the outside on Roosh through a table. Then, things get very weird. A team of men in balaclavas interfere and beat up everybody. One of them climbs the ladder and pulls down the chip, but commentary are like, this is not the Joker. He unmasks, and it's Stokely Hathaway, and all the other guys are his stable. Then the Joker comes out to the song Sympathy for the Devil, takes his time getting in the ring. He's wearing a devilish kind of mask. You can't see who it is. He gets in the ring. Stokely hands him the chip, and the bell rings. He's won the match. So the Joker wins. He goes to unmask, but then doesn't. He just goes, no, 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 I'm not going to reveal who I am. And then he just walks off with the rest of his group. Okay. The next match is the tournament final for those trios titles. Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, aka The Elite, taking on Alex Reynolds, John Silver, and Hangman Adam Page. Hangman and Nick wrestle to a stalemate to start the match before kind of shaking hands or fist bumping and then tagging out. Alex Reynolds and Matt Jackson also wrestle to a stalemate. Reynolds goes for a handshake, but Matt just spits at him instead. Boo. John Silver blind tags in, and they both stomp away, he and Reynolds, at Matt's notoriously injured back. But then Hangman comes in and pushes them away and goes, no, come on, guys, no. Which, come on, Hangman, have some balls. Later, Silver targets Kenny's shoulder, and again, Hangman gets in there and stops him. Even Kenny seems to be like, what are you doing, Adam? So Hangman lays in a big chop. That's more like it. The Elite take control of the match for a while until Silver gets the hot tag and runs wild on everyone, including Brandon Cutler and Michael Nakazawa on the outside. Omega also gets a nice slice of the match to run wild in as well, snapdragons for everybody, but then Silver and Reynolds hit their signature combination on him for a very near fall. Kenny hits his huge Terminator dive, but then a miscommunication sees Nick and Kenny kick Matt Jackson by accident, and the Dark Order take control. They hit their big triple team finisher, the pendulum bomb, on Matt, but Nick breaks up the pinfall with a swanton bomb from the top rope. A four-way super kick party takes nearly everyone out, and it's just Kenny and Hangman squaring off, and in a cool and quite unique spot that I don't think I've ever seen before, they each grab their unconscious tag partner and drag them to the corner to tag in. They go back and forth inside the ring, and Kenny hits an insane Tiger Driver for 2. Hangman gets a big near fall of his own off an avalanche flipping fall-away slam. Hangman hits the buckshot lariat to the back of Kenny's head and goes for one to the front as well, like how he beat him for the title. But this time, just as he was back then, Matt Jackson is outside the ring looking up at Hangman, and obviously this time, because he's in the match, he grabs a hold of him. Hangman kicks Matt away and goes for the buckshot, but Kenny ducks, or feints maybe, underneath it, and Nick flips into the ring from the other side and nails the buckshot on Hangman. They nail him with the BTE trigger, but Alex Reynolds sneaks into the ring from behind and breaks it up to a huge reaction. It comes down to Kenny and Silver. The one-winged angel attempt gets reversed into an insanely near fall from a victory roll, which is probably the best moment of the match for me. I was fully convinced that John Silver was going to pin Kenny Omega. Hangman then tries to buckshot Kenny, but Kenny ducks and Hangman hits John Silver instead. Kenny covers him and wins the match. The Elite are the first ever AEW Trios champions. And honestly, I'm kind of glad they went for more kind of storyline stuff and twists and turns and near falls in this one, rather than just a spot fest, which occasionally the Bucks matches have a risk of turning into. But I really enjoyed this one, and even though I would have liked maybe for the Dark Order to win, I can't begrudge the Elite. This was a great effort, and yeah, they are the first ever Trios champions. The next match is the TBS title match, with Jade Cargill in She-Hulk themed attire defending against Athena in possibly the Greek goddess Athena attire. I don't know, she's got some big wings on during her entrance as well. It's all very cool. Athena takes it to Jade early on and hits the Eclipse, or the O-Face, or, you know, the top rope stunner thing. 1-2, but the baddies drag her out of the ring on the stroke of 3. Is that not a DQ? I guess maybe the ref didn't see it. Athena takes out the baddies on the outside, but gets caught inside by Jade, who takes control of the match and gets a near fall off a big spear. Both women reverse each other's finishes. Athena heads up top again, but the baddies are scrambling at her legs and stopping her. Back inside, she hits a springboard into a pump kick from Jade Cargill. The Jaded follows 1, 2, 3, and Jade Cargill is still the TBS champion, and the Tron reads 37-0. This was a good match. It was quick, it was quite short, but I found it to be quite an entertaining sprint anyway. Next up, we see that earlier today, my boy Alex Marvez was lurking outside the arena and interviews CM Punk and Ace Steel as they arrive at the building. And Marvez, instead of going, "Hey Punk, what's up?" he goes, CM, can I get a quick word with you, please? He asks Punk, or CM, if he's 100%, but CM says, no, I've never been 100% going into a fight, but Moxley's not just fighting me. He's fighting Ace Steel, he's fighting Larry the Dog, he's fighting the firefighters and the teachers of Chicago, Illinois. He's fighting this great city, and that means that he's going to lose. The next match features another two of my boys, the Motor City Machine Guns, Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley, teaming with Jay Lethal to take on Wardlow and FTR. And the faces ended with Dax Harwood's daughter in a lovely moment with the Fight Like an 8-year-old t-shirt on, which is a very nice thing to see, but it's not the last we'd see of her in this match. Wardlow and Jay Lethal start, and Lethal spits at Wardlow. Ooh, they then have a nice exchange, with Wardlow avoiding the figure 4 attempt, but Lethal avoiding the powerbomb. Sanjay Dutt is wearing a Fight Like a Brat t-shirt at ringside, so Dax chases him around, but it allows the Machine Guns to take control. Later on, Dax gets the sharpshooter locked in, but has to let go to avoid the lethal injection, and then the heels take control once again, repeatedly slamming Cash Wheeler's leg into the ring post. This sets him up for the figure 4, but he just about makes the ropes, despite Sanjay pulling it away on the outside. Finally, the hot tag is made to Wardlow, who throws everyone around, hits the F5 to Lethal, who casually kicks out of that, cool. Wardlow then gets punched through the ropes by Satnam Singh into a roll-up from Lethal for a very near fall. He also kicks out of the big elbow drop from the top rope, but FTR get back in with vengeance on their mind. Big rig on Alex Shelley, but then they get caught with a double lethal injection from Jay. He then tries to take out Wardlow too, which is a mistake, and gets powerbombed 4 times, I think, for the win. After the match, the heels and their allies surround the ring, but here comes Samoa Joe to save the day. He takes out Satnam with the belt, and I think at some point busts himself open in the process. And then here comes Dax Harwood's daughter back into the action to snap the pencil that Sonjay Dutt usually has behind his ear. Dutt then gets taken out, and then Dax Harwood's daughter pins him in a lovely moment. Next, we have the grudge match between former stablemates Powerhouse Hobbs and Ricky Starks in snazzy new gear as well. Starks starts with a flurry of offense, but Hobbs throws him into the ring post and out of the ring and takes control from there. He works over the weakened neck of Ricky, but Ricky fires up and then runs right into a huge spinebuster for the win. Hobbs wins with ease, it seems. I mean, the match was a little bit longer maybe than I've made it sound there, but wow, it was still very short. Taz played up on commentary that Starks wasn't 100% and everything, but man, that was shocking. I wonder if maybe it had been cut short for time, perhaps, or whether it was always designed to be this way. Either way, very surprising indeed, but Hobbs looks like a monster. The next match, oh my god, it's the World Tag Team Title Match between the champions Swerve in Our Glory against the Acclaimed. During Max Caster's rap at the start, he says something, I don't think this was the exact setup, but it was something like, the champs are so boring, I'm gonna need a pillow. Why are you going to put me in a match with Lizzo? And the camera just cuts to Keith Lee looking unamused, and I was like, oh my god. The Acclaimed, by the way, in this match, they're so over. Like, there's Scissor Me Daddy chants, Daddy Ass, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, they're really, really popular. Lee and Caster have a nice back and forth at the start early on, with Keith using his agility to confound the challenger. At one stage, Caster goes to shake Keith Lee's hand, but he just beats him down to boos. Even though the champs are kind of baby faces, they are the heels in this match. Bowen slips at one stage, a crucial point in the match, coming off the turnbuckle, and seems to be hurt. It's very convincing at first, but clearly it's a worked one as the match goes on. He heads to the outside for Billy Gunn to check on him, but Swerve presses the advantage, and the champs ruthlessly target that leg to huge heat. Caster gets the hot tag at one point, and Keith Lee accidentally pounces Strickland. Double team offense from the Acclaimed, but it's only good enough for a near fall. Keith goes up top, but gets cut off by the challengers, who go for a double superplex, but as they hit it, Swerve blind tags in. He comes off the top with a double stomp. It looks to be over, but to the delight of the crowd, Bowens kicks out. Caster hits an insane mic drop to Swerve, who's being dangled off the apron by Bowens, but he also clips Bowens' knee on the way down. On the apron, Billy Gunn confronts Keith Lee, and it distracts Lee enough for Caster to scoop him up into a very impressive Death Valley driver. Then the elbow drop, but it gets broken up just in time. The elbow drop to Strickland, I should say, but Keith was over maybe a little late to break it up, I guess. Nevertheless, the match carries on, and another miscommunication between the champions as Swerve kicks Keith, who then gets rolled up for another agonizing near fall. Bowens, though, gets caught on Lee's shoulders, and he hits a huge powerbomb, with Swerve assisting with a double stomp from the top rope, and that is enough for 3. A breathless match. Really, really enjoyable, though, but the crowd are devastated that the champions retained. After the match, Billy Gunn shows Keith Lee a sign of respect, as do the Acclaimed. They're all kind of doing little scissor motions, but Swerve looks confused by this, and it's more discontent between the champions. The crowd, by the way, I think they were meant to cheer that show of respect, but they're still so annoyed that the Acclaimed didn't win, they just boo everything. The next match that has to follow that is the 4-way match for the interim AEW Women's title, with Hikaru Shida taking on Toni Storm, Britt Baker, and Jamie Hayter. Early on, there's a double submission attempt from Britt and Jamie. Clearly, they are on the same page for now, but then Jamie starts to dominate with her power game and hits a nice double vertical suplex on both the babyfaces. Toni and Shida have an exchange, but then Rebel gets involved for some reason and takes a double headbutt. The heels continue, though, to work together, but the crowd are chanting for Hayter. She carries Shida all the way up the ramp to the stage, and Britt stomps Shida, and Shida gets carried to the back by officials, leaving Toni on her own against both the heels. They beat her down for a while, but then here comes Shida with 2 kendo sticks, dual wielding like Anakin Skywalker. Later on, Jamie hits a tombstone on Toni Storm, but the pinfall is broken up in a cool moment with a Meteora from Shida. Britt stomps Shida, but she kicks out, and then Britt gets ready for lockjaw, but she gets thrown out of the ring. In the ring, Hayter hits a big lariat, and Britt Baker pulls the referee out on the count of 2. Jamie is furious. Toni Storm takes advantage of Jamie's distraction and hits her with Storm Zero, but then Britt throws Toni out of the ring and tries to pin Hayter, who kicks out. Britt thinks about possibly lockjawing her own friend, but then Storm gets back in control, takes out both women, and pins Hayter for the win. Toni Storm is the AEW interim women's champion. But I think the big story unfolding here is what's going to happen between Britt and Hayter. Next up, we have Christian Cage out wearing a Worked Everyone shirt. Oh, because instead of outwork everyone, he's worked everyone. He's a heel. He stares down Jungle Boy's family in the front row, and Jungle Boy's mum slaps him. He is, of course, taking on Jungle Boy, or Jungle Boy Jack Perry as he is billed. He enters and then looks behind him for Luchasaurus, but Luchasaurus has come out of the other tunnel, and he choke slams Jungle Boy off the stage onto a steel pyro board. Oh. He was never back on Jungle Boy's side at all, and he drives the point home by dragging Jungle Boy down to ringside and slamming him through the timekeeper's table. Jungle Boy still wants to fight bravely and agrees to continue with the match, but as the bell rings, he runs straight into a spear from Christian, but he bravely kicks out at 2. Christian doesn't care, hits the Unprettier for 3, and celebrates with Luchasaurus. Oh my word. After that, we head backstage where my boy Alex Marvez is with Death Triangle, Orange Cassidy, the Best Friends, and Danhausen. This is just to set up a multi-man match on next week's Dynamite, but the crucial thing is that Pac once again laughs off the idea of Orange Cassidy as a challenger for his All-Atlantic title. Next up, we have Jericho versus Danielson. Jericho comes out in full Lionheart attire and entrance and everything, and then Jake Paul plays out Daniel Bryan. Sorry, wait, that's Elliot Taylor, the guy who sings his theme. When I mentioned this on social media, people were quick to correct me and say, actually, he looks more like Machine Gun Kelly, and I was like, oh, damn it, he actually does. No offense to the guy, obviously, he's in great shape, but did he have to have his top off for this? I don't think he did. In the opening stages, we see Daniel Garcia watching intently from backstage. Danielson takes control of a lot of the early stages of this match, stomps to the head early on. Jericho's frustrated, throwing a tantrum on the outside, throwing chairs, that sort of stuff. And yeah, it's all Bryan in the early going. At one stage, Danielson is so in control, he asks the crowd if they want to see some sports entertainment while he's got Jericho trapped in a leg lock, and he mockingly swivels his hips so it was kind of like Val Venus, I suppose. Jericho works his way back into the match and counters a Hurricane Rana by just hopping down and applying the walls of Jericho, but it's countered into a cradle for 2. Bryan heads up top and misses the diving headbutt, but then counters the lion salt attempt with knees. The pair go through several Undertaker-style tombstone counters, flipping back and forth until Jericho finally nails a tombstone and just barely gets the rotation on a lion salt, but it only gets 2. Bryan counters the Judas effect with a kick to the arm and applies the bell lock, and then both men try and counter each other's signature submissions once again. Jericho hits the codebreaker for a near fall and locks in the Lion Tamer, and Bryan struggles a lot but does finally reach the ropes. He then hits the running knee for 2 and gets the cattle mutilation, and now it's Jericho's turn to try and reach out, and he just about makes the ropes as well. Bryan goes into big strikes mode with lots of kicks and elbows and all very brutal offense, but Jericho cunningly positions himself away from the referee and hits a low blow with the back of his foot. After that, he hits the Judas effect and wins the match. There we go, Chris Jericho defeats Bryan Danielson, and Daniel Garcia looks very conflicted backstage while the Jericho Appreciation Society, minus Garcia, come out to celebrate with their leader. This match was good, but it was I think it suffered from its placement on the card. After we've had all the excitement and all these multi-man matches and high spots and everything, to put quite a grueling and quite slow-paced technical match later on feels a little bit strange. If I was in charge, maybe I'd have put this earlier on in the night, but that's just me. The penultimate match of the card is the House of Black with a spooky entrance and spooky matching gear versus Miro, Sting, and Darby Allin. Miro is fired up early on and takes it to all 3 members of the House of Black, but he refuses to tag out to Darby. It seems like this could maybe cost his team, like when Charizard refused to obey Ash, but Darby eventually just blind tags in, which Ash couldn't really do in the rules of Pokemon battles. The heels beat down Darby for a while until he gets the tag back to Miro, but Julia Hart was distracting the referee who doesn't see it, so he makes Miro get back on the apron. Eventually Sting gets in and runs wild on Brody King and Buddy Matthews, but he really wants Malachi Black, who tags in. They brawl back and forth and Sting gets the Scorpion Deathlock, but the others get in to break it up, but Sting no-sells their offense. Black eventually counters the hold into a knee bar, but Miro breaks it up by pulling his hair. Darby gets the tag and Brody King takes both a Scorpion Death Drop and a Coffin Drop, but Buddy Matthews breaks up the pinfall attempt. The action spills to the outside, but back in the ring, Black prepares to hit Black Mass on Sting, but then Sting mists him and Darby traps him in the Last Supper for 3. The babyfaces win and celebrate in the ring, but Miro doesn't celebrate with them, he just kind of watches on from the ramp. And around this time, Bryan Alvarez reports on Twitter that Malachi Black blew a kiss to the crowd and bowed on his way out. Could he be leaving AEW? Interesting. We'll have to wait and see. Backstage, Jericho asks why Daniel Garcia wasn't out celebrating with him, and Garcia says it's because he's disappointed that Jericho had to cheat to win. Jericho says that he's confident that Garcia will beat Wheeler Yuta for the ROH Pure title next week, but he's going to have to do it without the Jericho Appreciation Society backing him up at ringside. The final match and the main event, of course, is CM Punk in his hometown trying to take that AEW World Championship back from Jon Moxley, who flips off the hostile crowd as he enters. I will say though, even though it's like a majority Punk crowd, there are definitely some very vocal Moxley fans throughout this one too. At the start, Punk mockingly offers the injured foot to Moxley to begin the match, but Moxley is obviously very hesitant to take it, and instead steals Punk's cross-legged taunt. They brawl to start, and Punk successfully hits the kick that injured him last week, then a go to sleep for a very near fall. Can you possibly imagine? Moxley survives though and rolls out of the ring, but he gets sent into the crowd by a big dive from Punk, and they fight up into the stand. They come back down to ringside, and Moxley's getting beaten up here, but desperately sends Punk into the ring post and dives back into the ring to beat the count and to recover. Punk is busted open badly, and this allows Moxley to take control. He even licks the blood off his arm. Ew. Punk fights bravely back, but Moxley targets the injured foot for quite a long time in this match. At one stage, they flip each other off while Punk is caught in a leg lock, so an angry Moxley breaks the hold and hits a pile driver, but it only gets 2. Punk again fights back and gets the Anaconda Vice locked in, but Moxley bites at the wound to escape. Oh, he's a grisly, grim man. A little bit later on, Punk again goes for the go to sleep, but Moxley grabs the injured leg and kicks away at it, and then goes for the Death Rider. He nails it, but only for 2. Moxley now goes into overdrive, loads of elbows and a bulldog choke, but Punk lifts him up into another go-to-sleep attempt, but Moxley slips out, but then Punk finally gets him and nails that second go-to-sleep. For a second, I thought Moxley was going to do what Cena did in that Money in the Bank 2011 match against Punk and fall out of the ring, but instead Moxley bounces off the ropes and rebounds and falls and slumps over Punk's shoulders, so Punk hoists him up again, hits a second go-to-sleep, and wins back the AEW World Championship. Punk celebrates, and then the lights go out. And before they come back on, we hear a voicemail message from, I think it was the voice of Tony Khan, offering someone money to appear at All Out in the ladder match. He's obviously talking to that person in the devil mask. He says they don't have to sign an extension, but this is my final offer to you. We don't know who it is, but we're about to find out, and I think we all know anyway. We then get a clip of Punk's famous Snake promo from Ring of Honor, the original Summer of Punk. Check out our video on that, by the way, on Cultaholic, on this very YouTube channel. And it's all about convincing the world that the devil doesn't exist, and then Punk is obviously saying, I'm the devil, but in the present, that devil is revealed, of course, to be MJF. And he's also here in person. MJF arrives. The crowd are all really ecstatic to see him, to be fair. There's big MJF chants, so he turns them into boos by flipping off the crowd, and he tells CM Punk that he's going to get that belt and it's coming home with him. I thought for a second that MJF would kind of cash in on Punk and steal the belt from him right at the end of the show, but that doesn't happen. They just have a stare down, MJF on the ramp, Punk in the ring, and we'll have to see where this picks up later on. So that's it for AEW All Out 2022, a mammoth 15-match show, of course, including the pre-show matches. I think generally the quality of a lot of the matches was very good, but it's always going to be a bit of a slog when there's so many matches on the card. But the big talking point is, of course, that MJF return at the end. But also, what did you think of this show? What was your favorite match? What were the high points and the low points for you? And what did you think of that ending? Let me know all of that sort of stuff in the comments section down below. And thank you very much for watching this video. I've been Jack from Cultaholic. Thank you very much to Luke and Joel for editing this big video. And we'll see you very soon.